Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I'm back on UK soil, at least for a week, and I've recovered from a little jet lag that comes with an 11-hour flight and 8-hour time difference. But hey, talk about first world problems, right? Now, I recently read a few inspirational stories about the North American president of Hotwire Global. Now, from my knowledge alone, they're an influential Silicon Valley comms leader that have worked with tech giants such as Adobe, Facebook, Ground Truth, Pepperjam, Sitecore, and that's just a few that I've heard about over the last few years. But as someone that deals with some of the biggest names in tech, I wanted to find out more about her personal story and what drives her and Hotwire. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Heather Kernahan, North American President of Hotwire. So a big warm welcome to the show, Heather. You can tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to be here. My name is Heather Kernahan. I am the president of Hotwire, which is a global communications agency, and I look after the North American business. Hotwire is a global communications agency, so our work is really focused on working with innovation and technology brands and helping them tell their stories to attract the right audiences to their business.
Now, for me working in the industry, Hotwire has a real big reputation for being an influential Silicon Valley comms leader. But for anyone listening that are new to what you do, can you just share some of the clients that you work with and also your vision for the future?
Yeah, so Hotwire is a very well-known global technology communications agency. And about 18 months ago, we purchased a company called Eastwick, which for 25 years had been in Silicon Valley as a technology communications agency. So our brand strengthened even further, and our influence in Silicon Valley, I would say, it grew even more with the acquisition of Eastwick. And some of the companies that we work with include technology brands that everybody would know: Dell, Tinder, LinkedIn. But we also work with innovation brands, and that means companies that might not be in a traditional technology business, but want to use innovation to help grow themselves. So companies like Hostelworld, GoPro, a company called Zuora, which is a fast-growing firm. Those are also companies we work with. Now, to answer your question about vision for the future, I believe a lot in having a plan and having a vision. And last year, we set out a plan, what we call Hotwire 2020. And that for us is having a big vision about the next 3 years of the business and where we want to take it.
Excellent. Quite an eclectic mix of clients there. I love the fact you've got Tinder, Dell and LinkedIn. That almost inspires another idea for a completely new business.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and what I think all those brands have in common is they either have technology and innovation at the core of their product offering, or they are technology and innovation companies.
Now, you have an incredibly inspiring backstory too, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on today, because I believe you worked starting as a CMO shortly after getting your MBA, and your interest early on in learning how to run an agency. I mean, can you expand on that? I mean, it's incredible. It's a great story.
Well, thank you. First of all, I will say too, I'm Canadian. I usually bring that up within 5 minutes of meeting people. And I live here in the United States, and I'm very happy and proud to live in the US, but I'm very proud of being Canadian. And I'm curious about why Canadians do well in business. And I think it's because we grew up in the shadow of the US. And so we have a bit of a challenger mentality that we can be just as good and we can be just as advanced in the business world as the Americans. So that is a core to my upbringing, is being Canadian, being humble, being very hardworking. And personally, what's important to me is having a goal that I'm working towards. So I had been in my career working in marketing for quite a long time, and I was at a company in Toronto that was acquired by a firm in San Francisco. So I moved here, and I realized when I looked around this big technology company that the CMO was the one who got to be at the table with the CEO. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in a position where I was helping shape the future of the company, and I got to do it at the same table. So I started my MBA, and I had a very young daughter at the time, and I had just moved to a new country, to the US. It is a very different country than Canada to live here. And I said, that's it, I'm going to go start my MBA, and it might take me 10 years, but I want to be a CMO. And I started evenings and weekends. So I would go all day Saturday and then 2 nights a week. And of course, one semester into my MBA, I got pregnant with my son. So I did, about the next 9 months, very pregnant and traveling for my job. But being so committed to doing my master's that my husband and I just made it work. I tell the story too, as I went along the path of my MBA, there was a moment near the end where I was working on a finance assignment, and my professor said, when you're the CEO of a company, you're going to want to look at this in the financials. And I put my head up and I said, excuse me? And he said, Heather, if you don't want to be CEO, why are you here? And it was a lightning bolt moment for me. It was one of those flashpoints in my career where suddenly I saw something much bigger than I'd ever seen before. And I thought, well, forget being CMO. I want to run the whole company. And I didn't know that was possible before that moment. And that's the direction I headed in after that.
Fantastic. I love how you mentioned two words there, hardworking and being humble, because I think so many times people will say to me, what do you think the secret of success is? And I've interviewed over 500 people on this show, and that's one of the common denominators there is being humble and hardworking. And we were both at Adobe last week, and if I pick out two speakers there, JJ Watt and Richard Branson, two incredibly humble guys and hardworking guys, and that's like the secret to success, isn't it?
I think so. And I have this personal philosophy around a concept called +1. And I learned very early in my career by mistake, which was if I had an assignment or I'm working on a project or something, if I completed it and then I went back and I said, what could be a little bit better? Like not magnitudes better, but a little bit better. And I made whatever I was working on just a small bit better. I stood out 10 times above everyone else in my peer set. And it's something that I use in my business all the time because my business as an agency is making sure that we're doing the best we can for clients. And so it's a core philosophy of Hotwire in North America, which is let's do +1. And I believe it makes you stand out with your clients, with your, if you're an investor and you're looking at a bunch of companies to invest in, what's your +1 with those companies, kind of no matter the environment you're in, if you do a +1 and give people that experience, forget it. You are light years ahead.
Absolutely. As a slight side note, did you have any tears in your eyes during any of those keynotes last week? Because I must admit...
Yeah, I know. Which one did you like the best?
I think it was the one where everyone, I didn't, not so much like, but I suppose it was the families that had lost absolutely everything. And it was little things like the photos that were so important to them, and then how they touched up the photos and brought them to them. Felt my eyes going there to, disguise the fact and be all manly.
Luckily, the theater was dark. Yes. Yeah, it was great. Great event.
So your story is going to inspire a lot of people listening from all over the world. But I mean, what inspires you about Hotwire? What makes you want to get out of bed in the morning? What makes you really enjoy what you do?
Yeah, I've always throughout my career, my greatest inspirations have been when I really haven't had a lot of limits on what was possible for myself. And at Hotwire, we have this 2020 plan, which has 3 core pillars. And so we're operating all the time to reach the vision and work on those 3 pillars. But for me, it's really the idea of being limitless in my career here and creating an environment where people have limitless opportunities for their own career. Because everybody works so hard. We put so much time into our jobs. And at Hotwire, if we've got this place where people can do almost anything they want, I think that they'll also be inspired and keep coming back every day and choose to keep working here. We also do a lot of our own innovation as a company. So 2 programs that we've launched that have been really inspiring to me over the past few years are, one is called our CMO in Residence. So we work a lot with CMOs, and we set up this program inspired by Silicon Valley and their entrepreneurs in residence at VC firms. And we have CMOs come in and work with our staff and work with our clients to help us understand what they need in services. That's been very fun to roll out. We also launched pop-up offices this past year in Mexico City, Minneapolis, and we have another one coming soon. So that's our opportunity to open offices very quickly in cities around the world.
Now, I also read a great story about you where you said that you believe that new ideas not only help your career, but they also keep you motivated. And I think you also recommended reading at least 2 pages of something inspiring every day. And you said make it a priority to bring those new ideas to clients. And by always learning, you're keeping the business moving forward. I love that philosophy. Can you tell me more about what shapes those beliefs?
Yeah, I think it's that I never wanted to stand still.
Yeah.
I always wanted to learn. I've been a voracious learner since I was young, although I was a really bad student all through university. I ended up in university probably 2 years longer than I should have because I could never quite settle in and make the grades to finish. But I just loved learning. And if I was learning, it was something no one could ever take away from me. It was what I had. It was what I knew. And so that's personally what keeps me motivated, is I always want to be fulfilling myself. And for me, that's reading, talking to people, networking in the industry, just learning what's next.
So I've got to ask, do you have a favourite book, especially something that maybe had a deep impact on your life? Have you got a story around that?
Do I ever? Oh my gosh. I tell everyone about this book. And it's unexpected because the author of the book is Jack Canfield. And Jack Canfield became very well known for writing Chicken Soup for the Soul, if you know that book series.
No.
It's no. It was very popular probably in the 80s and 90s, yeah. And he sold hundreds of millions of books called Chicken Soup for the Soul. But he wrote a book called How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And I stumbled across the book when I was in my early 20s and starting my career, and was feeling very frustrated about why I wasn't making more progress. And the very first chapters of the book talk about taking responsibility and accountability for your actions, and that you are 100% responsible for your own actions. And at that moment in time, I wasn't quite taking responsibility for all of my life. And so it grounded me and gave me this new concept to operate from, which is, if I am responsible and I am thoughtful about what I want to do, I can move forward. So once a year, usually in January, I go back and read the book. It's probably 400 or 500 pages, and I recommend it to everyone. And no matter where I've been at in my life or my career, it helps me recommit to some core principles that I believe in, and help me figure out how to get from where I am now to what's next.
Fantastic. Now, some of the biggest names in business, VC funding, sports, and even entertainment listen to this show. If there is a person in the world or the US whom you'd love to have a breakfast or lunch with, could you tell me and why, just in case they might be listening?
I know. I love this. I hope she really is listening. It would be wonderful. So a woman that I've been quite enamored with over the past few years is Jane Doe, who is the co-founder of Dermalogica. And I saw Jane speak in South Africa on a stage at an event called the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Summit. And what I loved about Jane's story is that she was an immigrant also, same as me. She started her business bootstrapped, and she really hustled. And I think she always continued to improve herself and learn, and was motivated, and just was able to move her business along. So she's an absolute inspiration to me, and I would love to have lunch or breakfast with her.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to send that message into the universe right now. Let's see if we can make that happen.
I believe in that. Oh, I love it.
So what's next for Indeed yourself and Hotwire? Is there anything else you can share with us today?
Yeah. In thinking about leadership, something that has become more part of my life over the past few years that I'm really focused on are not only professional goals, but life goals, I'm calling them. So I have a daughter who's 13 now and a son who's 9. So I'm very focused in life on raising good teens and good people. That'll be in the next few years. And having a great marriage. My husband and I have been together 25 years. We met when we were teenagers. So that's really important for myself, and just overall well-being. I think business world today is very tough to operate in, and resiliency is important. So I work a lot on my own well-being. And a lot of those themes mirror what's next for Hotwire too. We're a really ambitious company with our 2020 plan. And so we want to build in well-being and time for reflection, and yet being very ambitious of what we do at the same time. So that's what's next for us.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. But before I do let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online, or contact a member of your team, just if they've got any additional questions about our conversation today?
Absolutely. Yes, you can find me Twitter at @Kernahan, and Hotwire is at Hotwire Global. Or you can always reach me on my email, heather.kernahan@hotwireglobal.com.
Excellent. Well, it's a huge privilege of mine to have you on the show today. I love everything you stand for, hard work and remaining humble throughout. And that's the secret to success, and something that I strongly believe too. And you've also given me 2 books to add to my Amazon wish list there as well. So I've got something out of this. But more than anything, a big thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
What a great story there. For those of you that didn't know, Heather is much more than the North American president of Hotwire, but she's also a big thought leader in the industry, but is far too humble to say that on air. And that's one of the things that I love about her and her story. You shouldn't call yourself a thought leader, an influencer, a guru, a ninja. That's for other people to do, right? And I think my opinion on that subject is based around those LinkedIn or Instagram experts with 82 followers. I mean, what's all that about? You must have come across them. Because it does seem now that some people just think if they say something, then that's what they are. But as Heather pointed out there, being humble, working hard, these are the things that matter so much. So I stand up on my podcasting chair and I say I salute you, Heather, for that timely reminder and for coming on the show today. But as always, let me know your thoughts, your insights and your opinions by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes, or you could pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk/podcast, and you can record me a voicemail message. And I want to get a few of these in to celebrate the 500th episode. So if you do have time, I'd really appreciate you doing that. But I'm afraid we've reached the end of this episode. So as always, a huge thank you for tuning in. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.